Just take one moment. Sit there and internalize what it would be like to wake up one day and all of a sudden your family and friends just don't know who you are. You look the same, albeit a little pale, and you have all of your best memories. And yet, the people that you want to do it for, the people that you want to help and impress, just look at you with cold looks of disgust. Welcome to Ghostbur's reality.
Once, a corrupted man roamed these lands. While he was never the kindest or most wholesome soul, he made something that was unique to all that lived here: independence. He created a land where any could call home, protected under ideals of fairness and security, no small feat in lands so well known for tragedy. Ultimately though, this land would fall time and time again. The forces of order were always stronger, but his coalition would earn its place in history as the first collective to defy the unjust rulers of these lands and give them a real challenge. This story begins at this corrupted man's end. From this tragic death spawned something rarely seen in lands ruled by the fist of terror: Innocence. That tragic day, November the 16th, was the birth of Ghostbur.
Suddenly, from across the room, a girl catches your eye. You want to go up and talk to her, but it looks like she's about to leave. The only thing that's gonna make her stay is if you buy her a drink. Luckily for you, you're at no ordinary bar. You're at the subscribe bar, and all you have to do to buy this lovely lady a drink is subscribe. Do with that information as you will, soldier, and enjoy the video. Ghostbur's story, in my humble opinion, is probably the most tragic one on the DreamSMP. Now, if you've seen my Technoblade series, you might be thinking of taking up pointy sticks and heading straight for my front door, but give me just 1 minute to explain. Techno, in my opinion, was a justified antagonist. He's similar in many ways to characters a little bit like Deadpool. A man who does horrible things because of the circumstances or unjustified neglect. However, much like Walter White from Breaking Bad or Thanos from Marvel, that doesn't excuse their actions. But Ghostbur is a different story. Ghostbur was thrown straight into the deep end of the DreamSMP, and he had nothing but good intentions and a desire to help the friends that he remembered. In fact, one of his main driving forces are unrighting the wrongs of something that he didn't even do. Let's keep in mind for a minute that Ghostbur is a completely separate entity to that of Wilbur, because Ghostbur doesn't even remember half of the atrocities that Wilbur created. And yet, despite his good intentions and friendly attitude, he was only met with things like disbelief, resentment, and neglect from all of the people that he wished to help. So I'm going to go over a couple characters from Ghostbur's perspective and tell you exactly why they were so unjustified. Nikki and Wilbur were not on the best of terms when he died. Nikki felt abandoned. The man that had brought her in and promised her the world left almost as quickly as he entered. Granted, he was dethroned and exiled from his own nation and hunted to the death by most of the people on the server, but Wilbur had plenty of chances to bring her into the fold and take her to his new country. Slowly, Nikki's trust ran out. She eventually realized that she was a small part of Wilbur's future. In fact, when he died, Nikki didn't even know, so when tales of a phantom that looked like him roaming the streets of L'Manberg were told, she dismissed them as rumors caused by citizens in grief. For the majority of Ghostbur's life, she avoided L'Manberg and her resentment for Wilbur grew. She believed that he had simply left her after the war, just like he had when he was exiled. But when Nikki left L'Manberg and hid, she left behind all of those memories from L'Manberg. All of the times where Wilbur and Nikki shared a laugh,
All of the times he visited her bakery, or the time when she first showed him the flag that she had designed. All of those memories were lost to Nikki, but remained in Ghostbur. And to him, he was the one being abandoned. But Ghostbur didn't just receive confused glares and cold shoulders from his friends. No, that pain extended to his family as well. Ghostbur shared many happy memories with his son Fundy, and Fundy was potentially the greatest source of good in Wilbur's life before he died. While Ghostbur was simply unaware of the bad foot that Wilbur left on as those memories were gone, he was nothing but positive and supportive to Fundy from day one. He still saw the dirty little fox as his own son, the same one that he had built the country with the first time. But Fundy held Ghostbur accountable for Wilbur's crimes. His resentment was strong. He saw Ghostbur as some kind of twisted joke, a reminder that even though Wilbur left him behind in favor of his country, he would always be there to taunt his son. A living, kind of, talking reminder that no matter what Fundy did, he would never live up to his father's legacy. And so he disowned Ghostbur.
Will, listen!
I am.
You know what's wrong? Do you even know? Does it even break through? Like, Will, listen. Every single time something serious comes up, you evade it. You just avoid everything. You run away from any serious consequence that might become through your actions. You walk away from it. You just smile throughout everything. You think nothing is going on. You think everything is fine. It's not. You were there for me for a very, very fucking long time. And then when I needed you the most, you skedaddled the fuck out of my life and died. Because of what? L'Manberg's causes? Huh? You thought that was justice? You thought that was good for me? You left me, man.
It was simply too much to bear, and he even denounced him as his father, relying on his granddad Filzer to fill the void that Wilbur left. Fundy's abandonment of the concept of Wilbur as a father was a real turning point in his character. But as most major character points go, someone is always left in the dark. And unfortunately, Ghostbur was that person. And yet, the tragedy is not over. Now, I hate to dog on my man Filzer. He is probably one of the most consistently empathetic characters on the entire DreamSMP. That being said, there is seemingly one person that his endless compassion is lost on. Ghostbur was never going to be an easy pill for Phil to swallow. I mean, think about it. His birth came from one of the most tragic events in Phil's entire life. That day, he lost a son. Something that no parent should ever have to do. Killing your son and watching the life drain from their eyes is one thing, but having to go on and live with their ghostly apparition, some kind of fractured version of their tragic selves, is a completely different ballpark. Ghostbur was so separate from Will, in fact, that Filzer didn't even regard him as his own son.
It was just not him.
Just some similar-looking acquaintance to the original. The problem was, even though Ghostbur wasn't the son that Phil remembered, Phil was the father that Ghostbur knew. Wilbur and Phil were close before Wilbur left. Close enough that Ghostbur still had plenty of memories from before his time in L'Manberg, and all of those good memories were Ghostbur's only reality. Ghostbur still looked at Phil with the eyes of a son, and all he got back were forced smiles of politeness. Soon enough, though, Phil would go a step further than neglect. Friend, Ghostbur's blue companion, was a proud resident of L'Manberg when his father had his stint as a horseman of the apocalypse. Ghostbur watched from ground zero as Phil and Techno stood above him, two men that claimed to be his friends, and rained TNT on his new L'Manberg. He watched as those he cared about ignored him and his work, all for the ideals of government and politics. Surely Ghostbur was more important to his friends than some rules and some walls. Surely they could see how this hurt him, and yet they didn't care. Once the dust settled and Ghostbur surveyed the ruins, he realized that he had lost the only friend that truly loved him, with no strings attached.
Why did you blow up L'Manberg?
We needed to send a message.
You knew friend was in your house.
He's got infinite
You
cannon
knew
lives.
friend was in your house!
He's got infinite cannon lives. Don't worry, don't worry. It's fine.
Stop! You knew everything everyone owned was in this town!
I did.
I don't want to listen. I don't want to hear what you have to say. Look what you've done. How can you look at this and still you see yourself as a hero? Sending a message, Phil. Sending a message.
Yeah. Not to start another government. Not to take genuinely nice, wholehearted people and turn them against each other with power and corruption. I don't want to see it happen again.
So you make me suffer. I don't know what a live bird did, but I know what I did. And I just wrote books. You remember the lanterns we used to make? I built them. I built this town. And I watched them both blow up. I sowed the seeds of peace, and yet I'm the one who pays for war. I know I'm forgetful. I know I'm an amnesiac, and I know I'm the comic relief in all of your stories, but I still feel this. I still feel things. And I try my best to make sure no one else feels it. Phil,
I'm sorry. Maybe you'll understand someday.
Ghostbur never expected anything from anyone. He even accepted the responsibilities that a Livebur left him, even though he had absolutely no memories of ever doing that. He was a separate entity from Wilbur. It didn't make sense to hold him accountable for the crimes of his past, and yet people did. Ghostbur was truly noble. And yet, when you're trying to compile a list of all of those who truly cared for him, you begin to struggle pretty quickly. But the worst of all was yet to come. There is one character in this SMP that seems to be at the heart of every single tragic story. And unfortunately, this character didn't leave Ghostbur alone either. One person who puts himself and his goals before all of his friends, regardless of what they do for him. One child who knows no limits.